All right. So, admins. This is an admin group, but I think this goes for more than just admins. This can go for anybody who wants to be innovative within the Salesforce space. And so, the name of this presentation is It's Easy to Be an Innovative Admin. So, who am I and why am I here, right? We always want to know who we're hearing from and why we should even listen to them. So, Guillermo had a great slide. Mine's a little different. When I think about myself and describing myself, and I'll apologize ahead of time for my Texas accent. I am in Texas, so you'll hear a lot of y'alls as I go through this presentation. But who am I? I'm actually a college dropout. I don't have a college degree. When I was going to college, I could never decide what I wanted to be. I wanted to be everything. I changed my major over and over and over again because everything was exciting and I wanted to learn. That's all I wanted to do. But you can't get paid to just learn, unfortunately. And so I actually said, you know what, I'm going to stop and see what I can do to figure out where I want to be in life. And I took a job at a factory. We made jet engine turbine blades. So, the blades that make up the engine in your jets, we made those. And I worked in inspection. So we did X-ray inspection and what they call fluorescent penetrant inspection, where you spray a fluorescent spray on the blade and then you wash it off and then you look at it under a black light to see if there's any cracks or any inconsistencies. And so I did that for a while. And one of the things that I learned working on the factory is how important it was to have a nice, consistent process. I couldn't do my work if the people before me didn't give me the right information, and the people behind me couldn't do their work if I didn't finish mine and get it to them. It was a very important process. And throughout that, I actually started learning and becoming part of their process improvement team. So we would go around and we would look at processes and we would do what's called Kaizen techniques, which is a Toyota concept, which is essentially trying to create efficiencies in the processes. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed looking at processes and seeing where we could create efficiencies. So working at a factory, I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. So one day I took a job as just an executive assistant in an energy conservation company. Just, just came in at the low level. I didn't know, I never worked in an office in my life. And at this point, I think I was 25. So, working in an office, learning whatever I could learn. I would stand over my boss and have him show me his spreadsheets and his formulas and his spreadsheets, just soaking everything up, right? Anything you can do to go and like learn little bits and pieces of the business. I was like, give it to me, right? And one day they came and said to me, hey, we're going to start using this software called Salesforce. It was in 2007 and they wanted to send me to a Salesforce admin training. So it was early days. This was before they had certifications. And in fact, in 2007, the very first release that I was a part of, they released Apex code. So that was the year that Apex code was announced and made available to the greater community. So things have changed, obviously, since then. But it fell in my lap. And one of the things that I learned about Salesforce was that it fed that need to learn things, right? So I think all of us are probably in the same boat here in that, we like to learn new things. And with Salesforce, as you know, right? Not only every day, every release, you're learning something new. Every day, you're learning something new, whether it's in Salesforce and in the technology, or whether it's about your business and how it fits into the technology, or whether it's about your client's business and how it fits, right? So every single day, you're learning something new, and you don't get bored, right? So it fed that for me. So from there, started joining community groups. Again, it was early days of the community, back around 2010, 2011, joining some user groups. My very first Dreamforce I went to was in 2012, and really just big eyes, walking around in awe, like, oh my gosh, look at all of these other amazing people in the Salesforce community. And I remember meeting people who had helped me on Twitter, who had helped me in the very early Trailblazer community on Chatter. There was a Chatter group out in the Salesforce ecosystem. And I remember meeting people that across the globe, right? Who they had answered a question of mine. And it was so cool to connect in that way. And one of the things that I kind of vowed to do at that point was, you know what? These people just willingly got in and answered my question, pointed me in the right direction. And I really want to do the same thing, right? Because I know how hard it is, right? When you're starting out. I've done that before. So I can save somebody time by pointing them in the right direction or answering a question or connecting them with someone that I know. And that's where, my sort of trajectory in the Salesforce community changed, right? I became a community leader, got invited into the MVP program. Now, Hall of Fame, once you get over 5 years, they put you out to pasture and call you Hall of Fame. um, and then you get to do some super cool things. I've done some amazingly cool things as a part of the Salesforce community, speaking at events, Dreamforce, Trailhead DX, Dreamin' events all across the country. Actually got to record a TV show, I guess it's called, on Salesforce Plus. It's a reality show that we did about a year and a half ago called Legends of Low Code, where they took 9 of us within the Salesforce ecosystem and they put us on teams. And we actually built a solution for a nonprofit and competed against each other as teams. So over a 48-hour period. It was a lot of fun. So the episodes are really short. So go out there and take a look at them. And it's just cool seeing how
Definitely
people
worth a
come
watch.
together. Thanks, Anna.
Yes, so worth a watch.
Yeah, it's fun. So getting to do things like that, just, I mean, look at it. I'm a college dropout. It's a factory worker. I'm a single mom with 3 kids, and here I get to do all these cool things just by being a part of the Salesforce community. So that's really a lot about the power of the community. And I'll get into that in just a minute. So let's talk about like the subject here today, right? Innovate, right? Innovate as an admin the easy way. Easy, right? Being an admin isn't always easy. And innovating isn't always easy. There's a lot of roadblocks to being innovative, right? But one day back in 2019, I believe, might have been 2018, because I'm getting old and the years, they mesh together, especially pre-COVID. But I was actually able to go to Dreamforce, and they invited me up on stage at the admin keynote. And we presented a little feature that we had built at my company at the admin keynote using some new features. And then Parker Harris, who is kind of the second in command there at Salesforce, actually asked me a question. And he said, Nana, what does it mean to innovate, right, as an admin? And of course, they had prepared me for this question. So I thought about it a lot ahead of time. And I wanted to come up with something that people could remember, right? So I came up with this acronym, EASY, that it's easy to be an innovative admin. Now, what does that mean? So let's break it down. So the E means you have to be able to embrace change. The A, always be learning. Okay. We'll get into these again in the next slides. I'll dig into them a little bit more. The S, show and tell, right? Showcase your skills, right? Skill up and then show people what you can do through user groups like this and other ways. And then the Y is just to understand that you've got this and you've got a whole ecosystem of people behind you that you can reach out to for help, that are cheerleading you, right? And that are there to help you succeed within this ecosystem. Okay. So it's easy to be an innovative admin. So let's talk about embracing change, right? So changes happen all the time, right? Change happens constantly, and a lot of times it's hard to, you can either embrace that change, right, or you can be resistant to it. We all know coworkers or people at our customers that are resistant to change. We've worked with those users that are resistant to change. They want to do it the way they're used to doing it. But one of the ways as an innovative admin that you can really continue to innovate is by embracing those change, looking for the change and being excited about the change. And then also transferring that excitement to those users who don't like change. Show them why that change is important and what it's going to do for them, right? Business changes every day. Right? We've got the economy, we've got people, hiring like crazy, people letting people go like crazy, right? Businesses are changing their strategies all the time, and of course, what happens? They come to you as an admin and they say, hey, we're going to change our whole sales process. And you're like, oh, God, I just implemented that and got it into production, right? But think about the fact that you're the only one who can change that for them, right? And so they're coming to you and you're learning the business that much more, right? You're not just at that point an admin, right? You're engaging and embracing with the business. The technology changes, right? We're using new tools. Back in 2007, when I started with Salesforce, technology was way different than it is today. Okay. Um, so over the years, technology is going to change, and again, we've got to embrace that. We've got to be able to work through that. The people around you change, right? You're going to have new people coming onto your team. You're going to have new users. You're going to have people leaving your team that you hate, that they're leaving your team, right? And you're going to keep in contact with them anyway so that you can still help each other no matter where you're at. Again, another beauty of the community. There's requirements that change constantly. They might change as you're designing and building that requirement. The requirement suddenly takes a shift and changes. So many changes. And probably my biggest Salesforce example of a change is Classic to Lightning. I don't know how many of you can, I don't know if you can react on here or put it in the chat. How many of you were around when Classic was around? I was, obviously, showing my age. Um, but the move from Classic to Lightning was really hard for a lot of us old folks. I didn't want to do it. Honestly, I didn't like the new interface. I was used to what I was used to. I could find everything, right? And you move over to Lightning and it just works differently. And, setup was different. And I just didn't want to do it. And finally, I had a coworker who helped me rip the band aid. Essentially, we sat in a room and we decided, you know what, we're going to move to Lightning. And we actually did it in a 60-day time frame. We moved to Lightning, from Classic to Lightning, in 60 days. We're like, we're just going to do it. And it was so cool that it was at the beginning of this Classic to Lightning transition that the Salesforce admins team actually did a webinar with us on how you can move from Classic to Lightning in 60 days. So it was a lot of fun. But, we've got to embrace those change. Yes, Gabriel, life is change. You're right. So embracing that change is going to help you become more innovative, right? If you can't embrace change, this is not the career for you, right? You want to do something that doesn't change. You want to do something that's nice and sturdy and steady, but it's hard to find nowadays. So you got to be able to embrace the changes. So let's talk about the A. Always be learning. And this is where my college dropout skills came into play, right? I wanted to always be learning, and it's expensive to do that in a college situation. But with Salesforce, you can always be learning. I mean, just look at this, right? Salesforce has 3 releases a year, and that's just Salesforce. If you work with any other applications or other vendors, they have their own releases, right? That you have to stay up on. So you're going to have to always be learning if you're going to stay on top of all these releases. Back in the day, before they had the release notes in the format that they have now, I used to print them out. I would print out the entire stack of release notes, and it was like hundreds of pages. And I would go through and highlight the sections and put sticky notes and then go to my boss and say, here's the things I think we either need to be careful of and test. Here's the things I think we need to implement. Right. That was like so much fun. I don't have as much time to do that now. I actually miss that. But yeah, you can always be learning with these releases. And with Trailhead, I mean, come on, it's the major place to learn. There's 6 major clouds and 11 industry clouds. So again, you can learn something new every day. These other, like I started out on Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, doing some custom stuff, adding some applications. But when you start to get into these other clouds, I've never actually used them. I've been around a long time, but I've never used these other clouds. So any day I could say, you know what, I want to learn, I don't know, healthcare, right? And see what that cloud is like, or education cloud. And I've got a whole new avenue to explore, right? There's 7,000 plus apps on the App Exchange. There's more than 7,000 apps on the App Exchange. And this was research that I did about 4 months ago. So I'm sure there's more now, right? And little trivia, if you don't know it, that the Apple App Store, the name for the App Store that Apple has, the Salesforce App Exchange originally was called the App Store. And Salesforce gave the name to Apple and started using the name App Exchange. So Salesforce had the original App Store. So, little piece of trivia. There's more than 40 Salesforce certifications, and that's just Salesforce. Again, there are all these other partners that have additional certifications that you can take part in. So there's no end to the learning, and that's just on the technology, right, that we're working in within Salesforce. Then you start looking at ways to learn in the business, right? So you can start learning more about business analyst, right? Understanding accounting, right? So you can work with the accounting teams, understanding what it's like to be a sales rep, right? And what sales reps do within your company. So there's all these additional things that you can continue to pile on and you can continue to learn. So there's just never any end to it, right? You can always have something that's exciting that you can learn. And the more you learn, right, you've embraced the change and you've learned a lot, you become invaluable in the industry, right? Not only to your company as an admin, right? But the job opportunities just continue to open up because people are looking for Salesforce admins who have skills across, right? Not just a single skill, right? Skills across multiple things. And you can also use those skills that you've learned, right, in other careers. Um, so embrace change, right? Always be learning. And then let's talk about the skills, right? Skills are, one of those things that everybody's got different skills, right? We've all got different skill sets. And that's one of the beauties of working in teams, right? Of working with other people is most often we've got skills that complement each other, right? And we can learn skills that others don't have so that we can fill those gaps in where from a team perspective, maybe we don't have skills in those areas. You can see here this first bullet, if you build it, they will come. There's an old movie called Field of Dreams. It's an old Kevin Costner movie. And one of the famous quotes in the movie is, if you build it, they will come. And that's one of the things that I am always really big about is, sometimes you have to show people something, right? Before they'll get on board with it. And so that means getting into a trailhead org, right? A playground and play around and set something up, get into your dev org, right? Mock something up to show someone, right? I do this with customers all the time. I'm constantly like throwing together a quick little demo so that I can show them because not everybody is someone who can listen and learn, right? And picture it. Sometimes they have to see it to believe it, right? Or to understand it. And so you can showcase those skills of yours by building it. And by building it, you're also learning, right? You're having to learn in order to build it, right? So you're again building your own skills up because you're having to develop those POCs. You're having to present something to someone, right? It builds trust, right? Because if you can show them that you can do it, right, or that it's possible, then it builds trust in those teams around you, right? And then again, it gives you that opportunity to tap into all your skills, right? So you can see I've got a URL there, and on the Salesforce admins website, they have a section called the Skills Kit. It's the Admin Skills Kit. And if you go through and look at that admin skills kit, what's really cool is it's got it in sections, right, of different types of skills. And when you click into those various types of skills, it actually gives you examples of those, right? And so one of the things you can do is as you're looking and trying to decide where you're going to go, right, where you need to build your skill set, you can take a look at that and maybe do an assessment and say, okay, let me look at all of these skills and see which ones I maybe, maybe I don't have, or maybe I need to build up these skills, right? And get better at this area. There are things that I'm better at, right? Maybe you're really good at the technical details, reporting, right? Things like that. But maybe you're not as good in front of users, right? Communicating, maybe that's an area where you need to build up your skills. But it's a really great place to kind of give you a good overview of, sort of the holistic skills, right? To become an innovative admin. And you can take that and then decide where you're going to go from there from a learning perspective, right? Because these are the things, if you look at those little cards and the little sections, you can see it's geared towards both the person who is looking to be an innovative admin and the person who's looking to hire an innovative admin, right? And so a lot of companies are going to that website to look at those skills, right? And they're looking for people with those skills. Okay. And when you start to take a look at those skills, right? Again, you don't have to have gone to school for information technology. You don't have to, have learned database structure, right, to be a Salesforce admin. You don't have to have that traditional background. And I think that's one of the best things about this Salesforce space. I don't have the traditional background, right? But I could call on the things that I learned in my other jobs, in my other positions, and they would fulfill little bits of those skills, right? So when we think about it, when you pull up one of those skills, right, and you think about, okay, well, I've never, maybe I've only been an admin for a little while. Maybe I've only got my certification, right? And I'm trying to get a job. I'm trying to get a better job, right? And then how can I show them that I can do this Salesforce thing, right? When I haven't actually been at it very long, right? So take those skills, right, that are skills that a Salesforce admin really needs, and show an example of how you did that same skill, how you gained that same skill in a whole nother industry. And that's okay. Right. When I worked at that turbine factory, you know, I learned the importance of knowing the inputs and the outputs for a process, right? Because in my role, it was really important that I got the right inputs, and then there was an output that I needed to give to the next station so that I could do my process in the middle, right? And so when you think about as an admin, when somebody comes to you with a requirement, right, for a process, cool. Okay, you need a process to do this. You need a field to do this. Who's going to input the information? Who's going to be using it? Who's going to be feeding that information, right? Or entering into that process, filling out the form and the screen flow, right? Okay, who's going to be taking that information and doing something with it? And what are they going to do with it? Right? It's really important to know those two things so that you can build the right process in the middle. Okay, so I learned that not through college, not through, being an admin. I built that skill as an admin, but I actually learned that, right, at the factory. And so knowing that you can take those skills that you learned in all these other roles, right? And you can translate them into how they're going to benefit you as an admin, right? That also helps keep you from feeling what they call imposter syndrome, right? You're new to the admin world, you're new to the Salesforce space, and you feel a little bit like an imposter, like you don't, you're never going to know enough, right? Well, you do. You already know a ton, you know, and it might not be a ton about Salesforce specifically, but it's a ton. You've got a ton of life experience, and having that life experience and that job experience can translate into these great skills where you can build a system that's efficient and innovative for users, right? And work with other team members to do that. And then I'm going to get to this final one because to me, this is the most important of all. Okay. And this is where that imposter syndrome comes in, right? We all have it. I have it to this day, right? Of just wondering if I can do this, right? Because there's so many smarter people out there. But knowing that you're not alone, right, in this space. You might be the solo admin. That's it. You don't have a team. You're the only one who does it at your company. But guess what? You're still not alone. You got this user group, right? You've got the LinkedIn community in the Salesforce space. You've got the Twitter community, probably the Threads community now. I don't know. There's, so many places, right? Discord, Slack, the Trailblazer communities, right? There's so many places where there are groups of people that are just helping each other, right? On Salesforce. There's webinars, there's automation hour, right? There's so many places you can go to learn. There's almost too many, because you don't have time to do it all and juggle your job and all the things. Like there's so many sessions I want to go to and I just can't. There's not enough time in the day. But you need to embrace that, right? Make time for it when you can, right? Set aside some time very specifically each week, right? To do a little bit of learning, right? Set aside and make it important to attend these user groups, right? If you can attend a community conference, one of the Dreamin' events, absolutely go, right? Don't be afraid to ask your boss if they'll pay for it, right? You're going to learn things and you're going to make connections that will make you a better admin, right? So if you can present it to them in the right way, guess what? They just might pay for you to go, right? It might not be out of your pocket. Um, you can put in to speak or volunteer, right? To help pay that way to go. But again, you will make connections that you just never dreamed of. So, talking about the connections, I want to just step back and talk about those connections that you might make. I know you've all made connections here in this group. Guillermo's done a fabulous job of, you know, just fostering this group and the sense of community here, right? And you've seen this in other areas where you've joined the community. But, you know, I've got personal stories, right? That where I have over the years, I mean, I've been in the space for a long time, right? And over the years, there are people that I've only ever met in person at Salesforce conferences that I talk to on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis, you know, that are actual full on friends. We don't even live in the same place. We might not even live in the same country, right? But because of the Salesforce space, we have just bonded, right? And become like real friends, like outside of the community friends. There's a group that of Salesforce MVPs. There was one main Salesforce MVP. His name is Patrick Connolly, and he is really into running and triathlons and things. And about 6 or 7 years ago, he formed a group of people to run this event called the Tuna 200. and it is across North Carolina from one side of North Carolina to the other, and it's 200 miles that a relay team runs. So there's 12 people, and between 12 people, you run 200 miles. Okay. And so he's been doing that for a few years. He's got a couple of people in the Salesforce community that does it. And he actually, posted on one of the Slack channels that I follow and said, "Hey, we're looking for more people for our team." This was last year. And I'm like, "Huh, that sounds like fun." And I'd only met him at a conference before. I had knew a couple of the other people, again, from conferences, but didn't know anybody else. And I flew out last October and I ran the 200 tuna 200 with them, you know, and we bonded, right? This is not a Salesforce thing. We just met each other because of Salesforce, and then we had common interests and we did something together. And I'm doing it again this year, you know? So you're going to form these bonds, these communities. I've got a boss that was my boss back in 2012, and I taught him Salesforce, right? And he started doing and implementing Salesforce. And, we seriously, every day, we've got a Slack channel that's just open. He'll be like, "Hey, I need to bounce this idea off you. I can't figure out this flow." We'll jump on a call. We don't work together anymore. We work in completely different areas, but we know that we can help each other, right? And having that sense of community where you can do that, it doesn't just have to be your coworkers, right? It can be people that you've met online, on LinkedIn, in these communities, right? And they're all willing. You just have to ask, right? That was the one thing that I had to teach myself at the beginning, was it's okay to raise your hand and ask. You don't have to know all the answers. Okay. Nobody's ever going to know all the answers, because let's go back here. Is anybody ever going to know all the answers? Never going to happen. Okay. There's just too much to know and too much to learn. So this is where you tap into those answers, because you can post and you can ask a few people and you can raise your hand and say, "Does anybody know?" And guaranteed you're going to have multiple people jump in and point you in the right direction, right? Probably too many people, right? That you can't respond to. But that's a whole that's not even a problem, right? They're going to jump in, and the reason that they're doing it is just because they want to, because they've had that question in the past and somebody answered it for them, or they spent a couple days trying to figure it out, and then they see you post about it and they go, "Oh, I figured that, I did that." I had that exact same issue, right? And they jump in and they want to help you, right? And that is something you just don't see in a lot of industries, so we've got to take advantage of it. You've got to not be afraid to hold up your hand and ask those questions. And because if you have that question, guaranteed, I'm going to say that again, guaranteed somebody else has that question. Okay. And you become that spokesperson for them because you were willing to open and ask the question, right? To put yourself out there, right? And another person is going to see it and they're going to learn from it. I've found the same thing, and I think Guillermo would probably say the same thing that I do about posting on LinkedIn. For a while there, I didn't really know what to post, right? I'm like, nobody's going to listen to me. Who's going to want to read my stupid post? Everybody knows this already anyway, right? Somebody's going to laugh at me, if I post about this cool report feature, they're going to be like, "Oh, God, novice, you know. But again, get out of your head, get out of that imposter syndrome. And, in my mind, post about the things you're learning. It could just be like one day you just learned something really cool, right? You created an awesome validation rule. Post about it, okay? Put a screenshot in if you can, right? And post what you did, what the problem was, and how you solved it. Because again, guaranteed, guaranteed, there's somebody who hasn't done it before, who hasn't thought about it before, right? Or who 2 weeks from now, they're going to need to do it and they remember reading your post. Okay. So that's how you start engaging and really sort of leveling up your game, right? Within the Salesforce community, within the space, is not just sitting back and listening, right? But like, yeah, Gabriella, you said asking is the beginning to learning anything. And you're right. It absolutely is. You have to be willing to ask questions, right? And then you also have to be willing to share when you have knowledge that others can partake of, right? And don't again, do not ever think that everybody already knows this already, because they do not. All right. You'd be surprised about the things people don't know. I'm still learning things every single day. Okay. There's lots of things I don't know about the Salesforce space, and I'm 16 years in. Okay. I don't know everything. I learn something every day. Somebody posts something, right? And because they posted, I learned something new, and I'm grateful that they posted because I want to learn, right? So keep that cycle up. Absolutely. All right. So innovating as an admin is easy. Let's go back through it. Easy is embrace change, always be learning, showcase your skills, and know that you got this. All right. You've got a whole community of people behind you, lifting you up, supporting you, wanting you to succeed. You're never alone in this space. So you can follow me on all these places, or connect with me. I will definitely reply, point you in directions, all the things. I love connecting with others in the space, and am always grateful for the opportunity to meet new folks, to learn from them, right? And to engage together and sort of, be excited together about this space that we're in. So thank you, Guillermo.
Thank you so much, Nana. Well, I have to agree with everything. I was not talking too much because I am really losing my voice. I don't know why. I got a cold yesterday, so sorry. But I try to share my acknowledgement with all the community. So especially Flow, CPQ, and Sales Cloud, because I work with this every day. I try to solve problems, issues. So what I found, I try to share on LinkedIn, I try to share on community, and even on YouTube now. So thank you so much for it. Somebody has some questions, some information that want to share. Eleni, thank you so much. You are very active today. Thank you. Gabriel, too. Thank you. Hannah. Hannah work with you, so welcome, Hannah, to my group. Not mine. So everybody.
Thank you. I actually did have a question for you and Nana. When you're getting started, right, you have this admin cert, and it's kind of like the first checkpoint, if you will. It's how you break into it. And then from there, what you do or what education path you take is highly determined by where you work, right? It's determined by the needs of the company that you work for. But what would you say are some paths that you can take or some things that are just overall helpful, right? You're never going to go wrong learning it. If you are an admin or a consultant or whatever it is, it's what you should do to be better.
You want to take it first?
No, you go first,
I'll go
please.
first. I'll go first. That's a great question, Hannah, because it is. It's, there are 40 plus certifications, right? There's, a gazillion bazillion. I think there's, like 1,200 badges now on Trailhead. So it's almost overwhelming to know where to go next, right? You're right. The admin cert is sort of that base, and then you've got lots of spokes around that wheel. In my mind, there's a couple things that you can never go wrong with. And number one, it's any learning you can do that helps you understand the base Salesforce platform. So admin, right? Learning flow skills, app builder skills, right? Because if you can learn and really get good at that base, all that base Salesforce knowledge, security, setup, object, everything that's in setup and how to do it declaratively at a minimum, um, then all these other clouds, all these other things, it's still the same platform, that same foundation, right? And so those have minor changes and differences. Even things like we work with Certinia, PSA, and accounting, they're built on Salesforce, right? It's that same foundation. So the more you can understand that foundation and work on that foundation, you'll be positioned to work in any of those areas. So that's number one. And then number two, I think on the flip side, uh, taking that business analyst approach and going for that business analyst certification and really building up your skills at working with people, with end users, with clients, with customers, right? And learning how to get the right requirements, how to ask the right questions, right? Because if you can learn how to do those things, then you're going to save yourself a lot of time when you're
Mhm.
building and when you're designing, right? And you're going to foster relationships with those people, which builds trust, right? And which ultimately makes for a much happier job in the long run.
I totally agree. I try to study, for example, the same path that I am following. For example, I took the first certification, admin, and then, oh, looks like app builder. So I am working with this. I will try app builder, and then advanced admin. But I am following the Revenue Cloud platform and certifications, for example, and what I love to do is this because I am an economist. I am graduated on economy, so that's why I follow this path. Uh, Sometimes I go through another path like Service Cloud and Marketing Cloud just to learn a little bit about it. You told a little bit about it, right, Nana? To learn something different. And so I always try to follow what I am very good, let's say like this, because when I am good in something, I try to learn more. But every day I try to learn something more and something new, sorry, and share something new for somebody, even to my child or anyone. I try to learn something new and share something new related to Salesforce. That is my job now, for sure. For life, I do the same thing, but related to Salesforce, like Nana said, we have 3 releases a year, so we have to learn a lot. If you took Salesforce Flow, for example, right, Nana? We have a lot of new stuffs going on. Next release, we will see a lot of things going on because of the AI, the GPTs. Jesus, I don't even know what is going to happen. So we have
It's
to
like
study.
everything is AI and Chat GPT nowadays.
Yeah, so we have to study. If we don't, we are going to lose everything that we already got till now. So try to follow the path that you like more and do your best.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have to share your ideas too, Hannah, please.
I know.
I'm still navigating my path right now. I'm trying to figure it out. I did start with the business analyst cert because I did notice just from the consultant side, especially, but I would think even more so, from an admin or a product owner standpoint, because you're going to be dealing with mostly C-suite. You're going to be dealing with the stakeholders and things like that. So I was I was wondering about the business analyst because I noticed that it's just huge.
Yeah,
Completely agree. And then the one that I didn't add in, that I think is underrated, that people don't often go for, just in the scheme of things, that I think is really important for an admin, is the user experience, the UX
that's
path.
what I am studying now.
Yeah, because again, it doesn't matter what you build if they're not going to use it. And they're not going to use it if it's hard to use. And so understanding what that user experience needs to be and being able to think through that as you're designing, as you're building, whether it's a flow, whether it's a page layout, whether it's an app, right? Where you've got your tabs and you're trying to decide how to help people navigate through the system, right? If you don't have some of those ideas and concepts around the user experience, you could it could really be a detriment, right, to your org, to your users, right? So it's really, really important. I was telling Guillermo at the beginning, I actually have a presentation that I'm doing at Tahoe Dreamin' next week, and it's called "These Boots Are Made for Walking: Putting Yourself in Your User's Shoes," right, as you build. Because it's really important to do that. We've got to think about it from their point of view, right? They're doing things in a certain way, and while we're not necessarily trying to replicate what they're doing, we need to understand what they're doing so that we can either enhance it or make it more efficient or show them how they need to change it, right? So it's just really, really important to always be like, you build, and then you log in as that user and you see what it looks like for them, right? And you kick the tires, and then you build, and you talk to your user, right? To just constantly be thinking about that, because otherwise, again, you're sort of behind a wall and you're building behind this black box. You're the wizard behind the curtain, right? And you don't really know what's going on out there, and people could really be using it in a way that you didn't expect.
It's true. So somebody has some no. So Eline is without voice too. Leandro said, Salesforce is like an ocean, impossible for a real human being to swing every square meter. Yeah, it's true, Leandro. So Nana, I want to take this moment to extend our deepest gratitude for you. You represent the highest level of excellence in Salesforce community, and it's a true embodiment of what we aspire to become. I'm sure that a lot of people here aspire to become like you, work a lot with Salesforce, knows almost everything. I know that is impossible, but thank you for sharing your acknowledgement. It's very important to us learning from somebody that has a long experience like you do. So thank you again. And please be welcome to come again and present your new presentation. So, and sing for us, right?
Oh, goodness, yes. I was also, yeah, a part of a Salesforce parody band. We were called Apex and the Limits, and we actually sang at the first ever Trailhead DX on the main stage before the kickoff of the event. So you can do all kinds of fun, cool, crazy things as part of the Salesforce community. You just never know, right? Just volunteer, make connections, all the things. You're gonna, you know, there is a space for everyone, right? And it's all about embracing this community, right? And then using that community to just sort of be the best that you can be, right? Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. See you, everybody. Thank you for coming. See you
Thank
next
you.
time. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. I will stop the recording now. Thank you.